Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Legal Insights episode of Roofing Contractors Best of Success podcast show. I'm RC Editor-in-Chief Art Eisner, and I'm glad as always to be joined today by Trent Cotney, partner with Adams Reese. Trent, it's great to have you here to walk us through some of the biggest legal issues and otherwise impacting roofing and construction. How you doing today?
Doing great, Art. How about you?
Excellent, thank you. So I wanted to catch contractors up on something that was maybe more prevalent in our news cycle at the beginning of the year, and that was regarding the Corporate Transparency Act. As we are starting to get into, roofing's main season and construction season, communicating with customers is a big deal. And that was one of your focuses of concern when it came to this act. So what's been the latest on that, and what do contractors need to know as they head into the spring season?
Yeah, so the Corporate Transparency Act was something that initially was supposed to go into effect the beginning of this year, January 1st, 2025. But there's been a series of legal challenges, as well as changes in the administration, and a lot of back and forth, a lot of uncertainty for contractors out there. Just to remind everybody, the Corporate Transparency Act required that you report beneficial ownership interest to FinCEN, which is the criminal department of the U.S. Department of Treasury. And beneficial ownership interest is you either own 25% of a company or more, or you have substantial control over it. So there were a lot of small businesses that were really concerned about this, myself included. And ultimately, under the Trump administration, just a few weeks ago, March 21st, 2025, FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, came out and provided an interim final rule that narrowed the definition of what a reporting company is to only those legal entities that are formed under the law of a foreign country. So basically, if you're a foreign country and you're registered to do business in any state, then you've got to, report. The interim rule didn't eliminate any of the other exemptions that were already there. So that's already there. So basically, the effect of this is unless you're owned or controlled by a foreign, entity company, then you're probably okay at this point. That this is, eliminates the majority of companies that would have had to have complied with this, which is great news for roofing.
Got it. Right. So one area that they didn't have to go through, but there obviously was some run up or as some preparation needed when this looked like it was going to be enacted, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reporting deadlines were, January 1st. I mean, there were changes. There was literally a seesaw back and forth on December 23rd and then again on December 26th or 27th. But, fortunately, even if for some reason you have to comply with it now, they've extended the deadline to April 25th. So seriously doubt that most of our listeners are going to have any issue at this point. It's the goal of this was to try to capture companies that are potentially money laundering or engaged in embezzlement. And, from a common sense standpoint, if you're doing that anyway, you're not going to be reporting anything, right?
Sure.
So I think this is probably a little, more narrowly tailored and obviously helps small businesses.
Okay, got it. Let's talk about something else you've been getting some
Sure.
questions on. We recently posted a column you wrote regarding trademarks and how that is impacting small businesses and contractors in particular. What what sparked that column? What were some of the questions you were getting, and then what's the most important thing contractors need to gain from it?
Yeah, so we routinely get calls from contractors that are looking to obtain some kind of intellectual property protection on their name or on their slogan or on their logo, right? So that they can prevent their competitors or others from taking it. And typically, the mechanism that you would do that is a federal trademark, and there's a process for that. In the article, kind of go through the process in a little bit more detail, but it gives you the opportunity to have, a registered federal trademark that you can then, in the event that someone's trying to take your name or slogan or logo, you've actually got something to enforce. And the way that it's really come up, Art, is, we're engaged in a lot of mergers and acquisitions as part of due diligence. one of the things that a potential buyer is looking at is what intellectual property rights do you own? Typically in construction, they're going to be trademarks, although you could own, a copyright or a patent or something like that, depending on what it is. But really, they're looking, do you have anything that's got teeth to it? Other than being a clever name and a clever logo and slogan, do you have anything that is conveyable that can be enforced? So there's a lot of different reasons you want it. It's a fairly streamlined process. There are ways it can be more difficult than others, but recommend that everybody kind of look into that, especially if you got a unique name.
Got it. And, we recently also reported on one instance of a contractor that was a victim of cyber cloning, where his company website was essentially pirated or cloned and, virtually held hostage, kind of like a ransomware attack. I know you've heard of incidents like this. Is establishing a trademark, is that one of the defenses potentially to something like that, or is that just a whole different ballgame?
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely help because it helps prove ownership, right? If anything that can help, if you've got someone that's trying to steal your identity, regardless of whether we've had an incident where an individual went into the Department of Corporation, set up almost an identical company name, and then used that to open up bank accounts and potentially siphon off checks and funds, right? Pretty complicated, but anytime that you have legal authority to prove to anybody that's asking, whether it's a government agency, whether it's the police, whether it's another lawyer, whatever it might be, that's a good thing. So having a trademark demonstrates that you own that, it's enforceable. And oftentimes, for example, you can get websites taken down if you show that you are the trademark or copyright holder.
Got it. Wow, it's a whole new avenue of things to worry about for
Right.
contractors that necessarily weren't even there 2, 3 years ago, much less 5 or 10, right?
Listen, Art, if I wasn't making our listeners scared, then I'm not doing my job, right?
Well, and let's follow that up too. You recently addressed folks at the National Roofing Contractors Association and their virtual legal conference. Since that was all digital, I imagine you broached some of these topics. What were the highlights or takeaways on that, and particularly on artificial intelligence?
Yeah, did a great presentation, a lot of interaction with, the audience on artificial intelligence and how that's really emerging in construction. And, we talked about, where is it today? Where is it going? How can it be used? And we also talked about some legal considerations. What do you need to do to protect confidentiality? What kind of policies should you have around using it? We talked about intellectual property rights and AI and all that kind of stuff. And it just gets the wheels turning. It's a good presentation to do because you can tell that the audience, regardless of whether it's virtual or in person, they're engaged because they want to learn about it and know more. So clearly it's been something we've all been talking about for a while, and it's taken over the industry. I mean, I think it's going to help increase efficiency and hopefully revolutionize a lot of what we're doing in construction.
Right. Certainly not going away. It's
Right.
going to be evolving as it's designed to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Trent, for your insight today and the great conversation, and for all you're doing for the roofing and construction industries. Where can people find out more?
Sure. They can always email me, trent.cotney@arlaw.com, or hit me up on social anywhere at Trent Cotney.
All right. And before you head there, please be sure to check back at roofingcontractor.com and sign up for our free e-magazine and our e-newsletters so that you can stay on top of the latest news and information impacting the industry. Thanks again, Trent. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.